Have you ever noticed how a single word can change everything? One moment, life flows smoothly like a gentle stream, and the next chaos. The power of that transformation lies not in the circumstances around us, but in something far more profound, our control over four essential elements that shape our destiny. You're sitting here right now, perhaps wondering what brought you to this moment. Some of you came seeking answers, others driven by curiosity, and a few might have wandered in by chance. But I tell you this, there are no accidents in life, only appointments with destiny that we sometimes fail to recognize. Let me share something with you that might seem strange at first. Every morning in countless homes across the world, millions of people wake up to the same sunrise, yet each experiences an entirely different day. Why? Because while we cannot control the sun, we absolutely control how we greet it. This brings us to our first truth: control of the mouth. Not just the words we speak, but the very essence of how we communicate with ourselves and the world around us. There was once a man who lost everything: his business, his savings, his relationships. As he sat in his empty apartment, surrounded by the remnants of what used to be a successful life, he spoke 6 words that would forever change his trajectory. "This is temporary. I will rebuild." Those words, spoken in solitude, became his foundation for an extraordinary comeback. But here's what's fascinating. He didn't just speak those words once. He made them his morning ritual, his afternoon reminder, and his evening reflection. When others spoke of his misfortune, he spoke of opportunity. When they whispered about his failures, he talked about lessons learned. When they focused on his past, he articulated his vision for the future. The mouth is not just an instrument for consuming nourishment. It's the gateway through which we feed our destiny. Every word you speak is a seed planted in the garden of your future. Yet how many of us go through life carelessly scattering weeds instead of roses? The last conversation you had, what seeds did you plant? Were they seeds of doubt or seeds of possibility? Did you speak life into your dreams, or did you casually assassinate them with throwaway phrases like, "I can't," or "It's impossible," or "That's just how things are"? Your mouth is the architect of your reality. The words you choose become the bricks with which you build your future. They are not just sounds floating in the air. They are creative forces that shape the very fabric of your existence. Consider this. A young student once struggled with mathematics. Every morning she would walk into her classroom saying, "I hate math. I'm just not good with numbers." And sure enough, her grades reflected exactly what she proclaimed. Then one day her teacher pulled her aside and gave her a simple challenge. For 1 month she was to change just one thing. Instead of her usual declaration, she would say, "I'm learning to understand math better every day." The first few days felt fake, almost laughable. But as the days went by, something remarkable happened. Her resistance to mathematics began to soften. She found herself more willing to ask questions, more open to learning. By the end of the month, her grades hadn't dramatically improved, but something more important had changed. Her relationship with the subject had transformed. This brings us to our second element: control of the mood, that invisible force that colors every aspect of our existence. Your mood is not a weather pattern that simply happens to you. It's a climate you create, an atmosphere you choose to cultivate. Yet how many of us live as though our moods were like the weather, something to be endured rather than engineered? Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how some people can walk into a room and instantly change its energy? They haven't said a word, haven't done anything spectacular, yet somehow the very air seems to shift with their presence. That's not magic, it's mastery. Mastery over mood. These individuals understand a fundamental truth. Mood is not a response to circumstances. It's a choice we make before circumstances arise. They don't wait for good things to happen to feel good. They choose their mood as deliberately as they choose their clothes each morning. Think of mood as the lens through which you view the world. A scratched and dirty lens will make even the most beautiful landscape appear flawed. A clear, polished lens reveals beauty even in ordinary moments. There was a shopkeeper who ran a small store in a neighborhood that had seen better days. While other businesses around him complained about declining sales and difficult customers, he maintained an unwavering cheerfulness. When asked about his secret, he shared something profound. "Every morning before I open my shop, I stand in front of it and make a decision about what kind of day it's going to be. I don't wait for the day to tell me, I tell the day." This man understood something crucial. Mood is not just a personal indulgence, it's a responsibility. Your mood affects not only you, but creates ripples that touch everyone around you. It's like dropping a stone in a pond. The ripples will reach shores you cannot see. But here's where many people get stuck. They believe controlling their mood means suppressing negative emotions or maintaining an artificial positivity. Nothing could be further from the truth. Controlling your mood doesn't mean denying your feelings. It means directing them purposefully. Consider the conductor of an orchestra. Their job isn't to eliminate certain instruments or to make every piece sound happy. Their role is to ensure each instrument contributes to the overall harmony at the right time and in the right way. Your mood is your orchestra, and you are its conductor. This mastery becomes particularly crucial when we face the unexpected turns that life inevitably presents. It's easy to maintain a positive mood when everything goes according to plan. The true test comes when plans fall apart. A seasoned banker once shared a powerful insight about this very thing. He had worked through numerous financial crises, seen markets soar and crash, witnessed fortunes made and lost. What distinguished the survivors from the casualties wasn't their financial acumen alone. It was their ability to maintain emotional equilibrium in the face of chaos. The markets will do what the markets will do, he would say, but your response to the markets, that's entirely within your control. This wisdom extends far beyond the world of finance. It applies to every aspect of life where circumstances threaten to hijack our emotional state. But how do we actually achieve this control? It begins with recognition, the simple but powerful acknowledgement that while we cannot always choose what happens to us, we absolutely can choose our response to it. This brings us to a critical understanding. Your mood is not just a reaction to your circumstances, it's a crucial part of how you create your circumstances. It's both the soil in which your future grows and the water that nourishes it. When you wake up in the morning, that first mood you adopt sets the tone for your entire day. It becomes the foundation upon which every subsequent experience is built. Yet how many of us consciously choose that first mood of the day? Most people let their mood be determined by the quality of their sleep, the weather, the first news headline they see, or the first interaction they have. They surrender control of their emotional state to external factors before their day even begins. But what if you were to approach it differently? What if, like that shopkeeper, you made a conscious decision about your mood before engaging with the world? What if you treated your emotional state as a strategic choice rather than a reactive response? This isn't about forcing yourself to be cheerful when you don't feel it. It's about understanding that your mood is a tool, perhaps the most powerful tool you possess for shaping your experience of life. Like any tool, its effectiveness depends not on its constant use, but on its appropriate application. Something that often makes people uncomfortable: money. Not because money itself is uncomfortable, but because our relationship with it often is. This brings us to our third element: control of money, perhaps the most misunderstood form of control in human existence. Money is not just currency, it's crystallized human energy. Every dollar in your pocket represents someone's time, effort, and creativity. Yet how many of us truly understand this fundamental truth? We often treat money as either a cruel master or a fickle friend, when in reality, it's simply a mirror reflecting our deepest beliefs and habits. Let me share something that might surprise you. The difference between financial freedom and financial bondage often has little to do with how much money you make. I've known people who earned modest salaries yet built considerable wealth, while others with six-figure incomes lived paycheck to paycheck. The difference? Control. There was a janitor who worked at a local school. His salary was modest by any standard, yet when he retired, he had accumulated enough wealth to establish a scholarship fund for underprivileged students. His secret wasn't complex financial strategies or risky investments. It was something far more powerful: understanding that wealth is not about what you earn, but what you keep, and more importantly, how you think about what you keep. Every month before he would even cash his paycheck, he would say to himself, "A part of all I earn is mine to keep." He treated his savings not as what was left over after spending, but as his first and most important bill to pay. This simple shift in thinking, putting his future self first, made all the difference. But here's where most people get it wrong. They believe controlling money means pinching pennies, denying themselves every pleasure, living a life of constant sacrifice. Nothing could be further from the truth. Controlling money means directing it purposefully, like a gardener directing water to nurture specific plants. Every purchase you make is a vote for the kind of world you want to live in. Every dollar you spend or save is a statement about your values and your vision for the future. Yet how many of us make these decisions consciously? A wise merchant once shared this insight. Money is like water in a river. It must flow to remain pure and useful. The key is not to dam it up completely, nor to let it flow unchecked, but to channel it wisely. This wisdom applies whether you're managing a household budget or running a corporation. But controlling money goes beyond mere budgeting and saving. It's about understanding the psychology of wealth. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to attract financial opportunities while others repel them? It's not luck or coincidence. It's the result of their money mindset. Consider two individuals starting with exactly the same resources. One sees money as a scarce resource that must be hoarded and protected. The other sees it as a tool for creating value and opportunity. Over time, these different perspectives create vastly different realities. The first person, driven by fear of loss, makes decisions that often lead to exactly what they fear: financial scarcity. The second, motivated by possibility, tends to recognize and act on opportunities that the first person doesn't even see. Same circumstances, different mindsets, different results. This brings us to a crucial understanding. Your relationship with money is not just about dollars and cents, it's about your relationship with yourself. Every financial decision you make is a vote for who you are becoming. When you spend mindlessly, you're voting for immediate gratification over long-term growth. When you invest wisely, you're voting for your future self. When you give generously, you're voting for abundance over scarcity. These votes, accumulated over time, create not just your financial reality, but your character. But what about those times when money seems scarce? When bills pile up and opportunities seem few? This is where true financial mastery reveals itself. Anyone can manage money when it's plentiful. The real test comes during times of scarcity. A small business owner once faced a severe economic downturn. While his competitors slashed prices and cut corners in a desperate bid to survive, he took a different approach. Instead of focusing on what he lacked, he focused on what he could control, the value he provided to his customers. He told his staff, "We won't compete on price, we'll compete on caring." While others reduced quality to cut costs, he maintained his standards. While they withdrew from community involvement, he increased it. His business not only survived, but thrived because he understood that money follows value, and value comes from how we think and act, not just what we have. This leads us naturally to our fourth element: control of the mind, the master control room where all other forms of control either flourish or fail. Your mind is not just a thinking machine, it's the lens through which you perceive and create your reality. Every thought you entertain is like a seed planted in fertile soil, yet how many of us go through life allowing our minds to be like an untended garden where weeds and flowers grow indiscriminately? The control of your mind begins with a simple but profound realization. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts, the gardener who can choose which thoughts to nurture and which to weed out. Right now, in this very moment, thousands of thoughts are competing for your attention. Some are useful, others destructive. Some push you toward your goals, others pull you away from them. The quality of your life largely depends on which thoughts you choose to entertain. A master craftsman once shared this wisdom with his apprentice. "The mind is like my toolbox. I keep all my tools sharp and clean, and I know exactly when to use each one. But more importantly, I know which tools to leave in the box." This simple analogy contains a profound truth. Mental mastery isn't about having no negative thoughts. It's about knowing which thoughts to use and which to leave alone. But here's where many people stumble. They believe controlling the mind means suppressing thoughts or maintaining constant positive thinking. This is like trying to control a river by building a dam. Eventually, the pressure becomes too great and the dam breaks. True mental control is more like directing a river, understanding its natural flow, and guiding it toward productive channels. It's not about forcing your mind into submission. It's about training it to work with you rather than against you. Consider this. Every great achievement in human history began as a thought in someone's mind. Every invention, every business, every masterpiece started as an idea that someone chose to nurture rather than dismiss. Yet how many brilliant ideas have died stillborn because someone's untrained mind dismissed them as impossible? A researcher once conducted a fascinating experiment. He gathered a group of people and asked them to perform a simple task, to list all the possible uses they could think of for a common brick. The young children in the group came up with dozens of creative ideas, while most adults struggled to list more than the obvious few. What changed between childhood and adulthood? Not the capacity for creativity, but the mind's learned habit of self-censorship. This brings us to a crucial understanding. The biggest obstacle to your success is not external circumstances, but your own mental limitations. The good news is that these limitations are not fixed. They can be expanded, revised, or completely eliminated through conscious effort. Think of your mind as a garden, a space where you can cultivate either flowers or weeds. Every thought you allow to take root will eventually bear fruit in your life. The question is not whether you'll have a garden, but what kind of garden you'll have. Have you ever noticed how some people can find opportunity in any situation, while others can find problems in every opportunity? Same circumstances, different mental filters. These filters aren't given to us. We develop them through repeated thought patterns. Let me share something powerful with you. A study was conducted with two groups of workers in a factory. The work was identical, the conditions the same, yet one group consistently outperformed the other in both productivity and job satisfaction. The difference? The first group had been taught to view their work as a craft, while the second saw it merely as a job. Same task, different mindset, dramatically different results. This brings us to a fundamental truth about mind control. Your thoughts create your experience, not the other way around. Most people believe they think certain thoughts because of their experiences, but the reverse is actually true. They have certain experiences because of their thoughts. Consider this. Two people lose their jobs on the same day. One sees it as a devastating setback, the other as an opportunity for a new beginning. Same event, different mental interpretation, different outcomes. The first person spends their energy lamenting their misfortune, while the second channels their energy into creating new possibilities. But here's where it gets interesting, and this is crucial for understanding the interplay between all four elements of control we've discussed. Your thoughts influence your words, which affect your mood, which impacts your financial decisions, which reinforce your thoughts. It's a continuous cycle, and you can enter it at any point to create change. A seasoned counselor once shared an observation that changed my understanding of human behavior forever. She said, "People come to me wanting to change their lives, but they resist changing their thoughts. It's like wanting to grow different flowers while refusing to plant different seeds." This resistance to changing our thoughts comes from a deep-seated belief that our current thought patterns are somehow real or true, while different thoughts would be fake or false. But here's the liberating truth. All thoughts are simply perspectives, and you have the power to choose which perspectives serve you best. Take a moment right now to consider this. What thoughts do you regularly entertain about yourself? About your capabilities? About your future? Are these thoughts serving as building blocks for the life you want to create, or are they acting as barriers to your progress? The control of your mind extends beyond just positive thinking. It's about strategic thinking. It's about developing the mental discipline to focus your thoughts in the direction of your chosen objectives, rather than letting them wander aimlessly, or worse, spiral into negativity. A master chess player once said something profound about this very concept. He noted that the difference between a novice and a grandmaster isn't in knowing more moves, it's in thinking fewer useless thoughts. The novice's mind races through countless possibilities, many of them irrelevant, while the master's mind focuses only on the moves that matter. This same principle applies to every area of life. The person who masters their mind isn't the one who never has negative thoughts. They're the one who has learned to recognize which thoughts are useful and which are not. But here's where many people get stuck. They try to control their minds through force of will alone, fighting against every negative thought, struggling to maintain constant positivity. This approach is not only exhausting, it's counterproductive. True mental control is more like Aikido than warfare. It's about directing energy rather than fighting it. When a negative thought arises, instead of battling it, acknowledge its presence and then consciously choose where to direct your mental energy. Consider this practical example. You're facing a challenging task, and the thought arises, "I'm not sure I can do this." Instead of trying to force that thought away, you can redirect it. "I'm not sure I can do this yet, but I can take the first step." Notice how this slight shift changes everything. It acknowledges the current reality while opening the door to possibility. This brings us to another crucial aspect of mind control: the power of questions. The questions you ask yourself shape your mental landscape more than any other factor. When you face a setback, do you ask, "Why does this always happen to me?" Or do you ask, "What can I learn from this?" A wise teacher once demonstrated this principle with a simple experiment. He asked his students to spend 1 minute looking around the room and noting everything that was brown. Then he had them close their eyes and asked them to recall everything that was blue. The students were surprised to find they couldn't remember many blue items, even though the room was full of them. Why? Because they had trained their minds to look for brown. This simple exercise reveals a profound truth about how our minds work. We find what we look for. If we train our minds to look for problems, we'll find problems. If we train them to look for opportunities, we'll find opportunities. But this isn't just about positive thinking, it's about effective thinking. It's about developing the mental agility to see situations from multiple perspectives and choose the most useful view. The last time you faced a significant challenge, your initial thoughts probably focused on the difficulties, the obstacles, the potential for failure. That's natural. It's your mind's way of trying to protect you. But protection isn't always progress. The mastery of mind control comes when you can acknowledge those protective thoughts while consciously choosing to also consider other perspectives. What opportunities might this challenge present? What strengths might it help you develop? What doors might it open that you haven't even considered yet? A successful entrepreneur shared this insight about mental control. Every morning I consciously choose my mental attitude before I check my email, before I look at my phone, before I engage with any external input. I decide what lens I'm going to view the day through. This doesn't mean I ignore problems or challenges. It means I choose how I'm going to approach them. This level of mental mastery doesn't happen overnight. Like any form of control, it requires practice, patience, and persistence. But here's the encouraging truth. Every moment presents a new opportunity to practice. Every challenge, every setback, every unexpected turn of events is not just a test of your mental control, it's an opportunity to strengthen it. Remember that master chess player we mentioned earlier? He didn't become a grandmaster by winning every game. He achieved mastery by learning from every game, win or lose. The same principle applies to mastering your mind. Every time you catch yourself in a negative thought pattern and consciously choose a different perspective, you're strengthening your mental muscles. But here's something crucial to understand about mind control. It's not about never having negative thoughts or difficult emotions. That's not control, that's suppression. True mental control is about developing the ability to navigate your thoughts and emotions skillfully, like a captain steering a ship through both calm and stormy seas. The true power of these four elements, mouth, mood, money, and mind, lies not in mastering them individually, but in understanding how they work together to create the symphony of your life. Each element influences and amplifies the others, creating either an upward spiral of success or a downward spiral of limitation. Let me share something that might shift your perspective forever. Have you ever noticed how a single shift in one area can create a cascade of changes in all the others? Consider this. You wake up one morning and consciously choose to speak differently about your work. Instead of the habitual, I have to go to work, you say, I get to go to work. This simple shift in words, mouth, affects your emotional state, mood, which influences how you perform at work, potentially leading to better financial outcomes, money. All of which reinforces your belief in the power of positive thinking, mind. One small change, four significant impacts. But here's where it gets really interesting. Each of these elements can serve as an entry point for positive change. You don't have to master all four simultaneously. You can start with whichever one feels most accessible to you right now. A recovering addict once shared a profound insight about this process. He said, I couldn't control my thoughts at first. They were too chaotic. I couldn't control my emotions. They were too raw. But I could control what came out of my mouth, so I started there. Every morning I would look in the mirror and say, today I choose life. At first it felt hollow, even ridiculous, but day by day those words began to shape my reality. This man understood something crucial. Sometimes the easiest point of entry for change is through our words. By controlling his mouth, he gradually gained control over his mood, which helped him make better financial decisions, which ultimately supported his mental recovery. The last time you made a significant positive change in your life, trace it back to its origin. Did it start with a change in how you talked about your situation? A shift in your emotional approach? A financial decision? A new way of thinking? Understanding your personal pattern of change can help you initiate positive transformations more effectively in the future. But here's where many people get stuck. They wait for all conditions to be perfect before taking action. They think they need to have their thoughts completely organized, their emotions fully under control, their finances perfectly in order before they can begin. This is like waiting for all traffic lights to be green before starting your journey. You'll never leave your driveway. The truth is, mastery of these four elements is not a destination. It's a journey. It's not about achieving perfect control. It's about developing increasingly skillful control. Each day presents new challenges and opportunities to practice, to refine, to grow. Consider the metaphor of learning to play a musical instrument. No one expects to sit down at a piano for the first time and play a concerto. You begin with simple scales, basic chords, easy melodies. The same principle applies to mastering these four elements of control. A wise martial arts master once shared this perspective. The goal is not to never lose balance. That's impossible. The goal is to regain balance more quickly each time you lose it. This wisdom applies perfectly to our four elements of control. You will have days when your words don't serve you well, when your mood dips, when your financial decisions are less than optimal, when your thoughts seem to run wild. The mastery lies not in avoiding these moments, but in how quickly and effectively you can regain control. Let's look at how this works in practice. Suppose you receive unexpected negative news. Your initial reaction might be to speak negatively about the situation, mouth, which creates a negative emotional state, mood, leading to poor financial decisions, money, all of which reinforces negative thinking patterns, mind. But with practice in these four elements of control, you can interrupt this downward spiral at any point. You might catch yourself in negative self-talk and consciously choose different words. You might notice your mood dropping and deliberately shift your emotional state. You might recognize the impulse to make reactive financial decisions and choose to pause and reflect. You might observe your negative thought patterns and consciously redirect your mental energy. This is where the real power lies, in the ability to recognize these patterns and consciously choose your response. It's about developing the awareness to notice when you're losing control and the skills to regain it effectively. A successful business leader once shared how she applied this understanding during a major company crisis. The market had shifted dramatically, threatening the company's survival. Instead of allowing panic to dictate her response, she consciously applied control in all four areas. She carefully chose her words when communicating with her team, mouth, maintained a steady, determined mood that inspired confidence, mood, made careful, strategic financial decisions rather than reactive ones, money, and kept her mind focused on solutions rather than problems, mind. The result? Not only did her company survive the crisis, but it emerged stronger with a more resilient culture and a clearer sense of purpose. The crisis hadn't changed, but her response to it, governed by these four elements of control, had transformed its impact. This brings us to another crucial understanding. These four elements of control don't just affect your personal life. They influence every relationship, every interaction, every endeavor you undertake. They are the fundamental tools through which you engage with the world. The last time you were in a challenging conversation, how might it have gone differently if you had maintained better control over your words, your emotional state, your thinking patterns? How often do financial pressures influence how we speak, feel, and think in our relationships? A family counselor once observed that most relationship conflicts involve breakdowns in at least three of these four areas, usually starting with uncontrolled words, which trigger negative emotions leading to poor decisions, all supported by dysfunctional thinking patterns. But here's the empowering flip side. When you master these elements of control, you become a source of stability and inspiration for others. Your controlled words create safe spaces for authentic communication. Your emotional stability provides an anchor for others during difficult times. Your financial responsibility creates security and opportunity. Your clear thinking helps others see new possibilities. This mastery becomes particularly crucial during times of change and uncertainty. When the world around you seems chaotic, these four elements of control become your anchors, your tools for maintaining stability and creating positive momentum. But remember, this isn't about achieving perfect control. It's about developing increasing levels of skill and awareness. It's about catching yourself more quickly when you lose control and regaining it more effectively each time. It's about understanding that each moment presents a new opportunity to practice, to improve, to grow. As we draw our time together to a close, let's address the question that might be forming in your mind: where do I begin? The beauty of these four elements of control is that they operate as a system, but you can enter that system through any door that opens to you. Some of you might find it easiest to begin with your words, consciously choosing different language to describe your situation, your challenges, your possibilities. Others might connect more naturally with emotional control, learning to manage your moods as a starting point for broader change. Some might prefer the concrete nature of financial control as your entry point, while others might resonate most strongly with mental mastery. The door you choose doesn't matter as much as your commitment to walk through it. Remember that shopkeeper we talked about earlier? He didn't wait for circumstances to change before he changed his approach to each day. He didn't wait for success to feel successful. He understood that control begins with choice, the choice to approach each day, each situation, each challenge differently. Here's what I want you to understand deeply. You already possess everything you need to begin this journey. You don't need special training, expensive resources, or ideal circumstances. You need only the willingness to begin and the commitment to persist. Consider this. Every person who has ever achieved mastery in any field started as a beginner. Every financial success story began with a single wise decision. Every emotional breakthrough started with one moment of conscious choice. Every journey of mental mastery began with one redirected thought. A recovering gambling addict once shared something profound about his journey to financial and emotional stability. He said, "I used to think I needed willpower to change. What I really needed was awareness. Once I became aware of how my words shaped my moods, how my moods influenced my spending, and how my thinking perpetuated the cycle, I could begin to make different choices." This brings us to a crucial truth. Awareness is the first step toward control. You don't need to master all four elements at once. You just need to become aware of how they operate in your life right now. Notice your habitual words, observe your emotional patterns, track your financial decisions, watch your thoughts. But here's the key. Do this observation without judgment. You're not looking to criticize yourself, you're gathering information. Like a scientist studying a phenomenon, maintain curious detachment. This awareness alone will begin to create shifts in your life. What's happening right now in your own mind? Since we began exploring these concepts, you've probably become more aware of your own patterns. Perhaps you've recognized how certain words you use regularly affect your emotional state. Maybe you've seen connections between your moods and your spending habits. Perhaps you've noticed how your thoughts influence all of these areas. This awareness is not the end of the journey, it's the beginning. It's like turning on a light in a dark room. The room hasn't changed, but you can now see what needs to be addressed. You can now make conscious choices about what to keep and what to change. Let me share something powerful with you. The most significant changes often begin with the smallest shifts. A slight adjustment in how you greet each morning, a small change in how you talk about your challenges, a minor modification in how you handle financial decisions, a subtle shift in how you direct your thoughts. These small changes, consistently applied, create compound effects over time. Like interest accumulating in a savings account, small positive choices accumulate into significant life changes. A master carpenter once shared this wisdom about his craft. The difference between a good joint and a perfect joint is often just a fraction of a millimeter. But that fraction makes all the difference in the strength and beauty of the final piece. The same principle applies to these elements of control. Small adjustments, consistently applied, create masterful results. But here's what you must understand. This journey is not about reaching a destination where you have perfect control. It's about developing increasing levels of skill in managing these four elements. It's about becoming more aware, more intentional, more skilled in your choices. You will have days when your words slip, when your emotions surge, when your financial decisions are less than optimal, when your thoughts seem to run wild. This is not failure. It's part of the process. The mastery lies in how quickly you recognize these moments and how skillfully you regain control. Remember that martial arts master we mentioned? His wisdom bears repeating. The goal is not to never lose balance. That's impossible. The goal is to regain balance more quickly each time you lose it. This is the essence of true control. As you leave here today, I want you to carry this understanding with you. You are not just the sum of your habits and patterns. You are not defined by your past words, moods, financial decisions, or thoughts. You are a conscious being with the power to choose differently in each moment. Every word you speak is a choice. Every emotion you entertain is a choice. Every financial decision you make is a choice. Every thought you nurture is a choice. And with each choice, you are either moving toward greater control or away from it. But here's the most empowering truth of all. No matter what choices you've made up to this moment, your next choice is entirely yours to make. Right now, in this moment, you can choose different words, shift your emotional state, make wiser financial decisions, direct your thoughts more purposefully. The question is not whether you have this power, you do. The question is whether you will exercise it consciously and consistently. Will you take control of these four elements, or will you let them control you? As you step forward from this moment, remember that you're not alone on this journey. Every person who has ever achieved anything worthwhile has walked a similar path, learning to control their words, manage their emotions, direct their resources, and master their thoughts. Your journey begins with your next choice. It might be a choice about the words you'll use to describe your situation. It might be a choice about how you'll respond emotionally to your next challenge. It might be a choice about how you'll handle your next financial decision. It might be a choice about which thoughts you'll entertain and which you'll release. Whatever that next choice is, make it consciously, make it purposefully. Make it with the understanding that it's not just a single choice. It's the first step in a new direction. It's the beginning of your journey toward mastery of these four elements of control. The power is yours, the choice is yours, the time is now. What will your next choice be?